What are hit points? A question that has been answered many times, yet no answer seems to satisfy. Well, regardless what they are to you, I never liked how games handle losing all of them. Hello everyone, and welcome to Dungeon Bits. Today we're talking about hit points, dying, and how a super fun class is going to work in my game, Sanctum. Talking about dying first seems like a grim starting point, but if you're in a fighting game, you gotta know what the fail state is. So, when you lose all your hit points in most video games, you die and have to load a save. And I've seen some TTRPGs do this, as in, you're alive when you have hit points, and you die when they're gone. Simple. Some multiplayer games have a revive mechanic, where you can revive your friend while chaos goes on around you. I think this can be good because it can increase tension. And other games handle it by saying, there is a state between life and death. In the most popular game, when you drop to 0 hit points, you are unconscious. And while it's good to have a chance to come back from it, it's not really fun. So, I want to change that. Hit points in Sanctum are whatever you want them to be. They can be a measure of your health, your determination, or your heroism. How many hit points you have is determined by your choice of class and your choice of race, ancestry, kin, face, name still in progress. At level 1, let's say your race gives you 5 hit points, and your class gives you 7. Add them up, boom, simple, you have 12 hit points. Then, as you level up, you gain half the number you got at level 1. So, at level 1 you have 13. Then, at level 2, you gain 6 hit points for a total of 18. Are you with me so far? Then, in battle, you take damage, and when you run out of them, you don't immediately die. Unless... well, let's first talk about a new mechanic that I'm bringing in. Heroic hit points. Let's use the same numbers to avoid confusion. You are level 1 with 12 hit points. You start your day with a number of heroic hit points equal to your maximum hit points halved, which is 6. At level 2 you have 18, so you start your day with 9 heroic hit points. And there are 2 main uses for these points. When you take a respite, you can cauterize wounds and snap dislocated joints back into place. As a result, you can eat as many of these heroic hit points as you want to regain hit points as a 1-for-1 scale. So let's say that your level 1 character lost 6 hit points in a fight. On a respite, they could eat all 6 of their heroic hit points to go back to full without the aid of supernatural means like magic. Then, they have no heroic hit points left. The other use for these heroic hit points ties into you dying, because when you reach 0 hit points in this game, you don't immediately die or go unconscious. You begin dying, which means you move half as fast and your rolls are at disadvantage. And if a minute passes or you lose all of your heroic hit points, then you die. Think of the likes of Left 4 Dead or Call of Duty Zombies. When you are too hurt, you are knocked on your butt and you can still participate, even at a lessened capacity, while dying. However, more fittingly is Boromir's death scene, where Boromir's player gets to keep on being heroic, and with this system, the more heroic hit points you have, the more you can fight on, even after being shot with more and more arrows. I love this mechanic in this system because it means players are still engaged. They aren't just waiting for it to be their turn so they can make one roll to see if they score a crit and they get to act again. They're still up and still making choices in the fight. For example, is your character going to go full Boromir and keep fighting like a heroic badass to protect their friends, or are you going to use all of your actions to grip your wounds and run as fast as you can into cover with their lowered movement? Or are you going to play dead? Bring home the Oscar and lie prone so the enemies think that you're no longer a threat. Having the choice to risk a hero's death or doing whatever you can to save your own hide is much more fun than, yay, I'm unconscious, well, those thumbs aren't gonna twiddle themselves. But hold on, you heal and stay alive in your dying state from the same pool of hit points? So if I heal myself on a respite, I'm gonna have less heroic hit points left to stay alive when in battle. Yes. Oh, what? Well, having 6 heroic hit points isn't going to get me very far. Well, no, and neither is 1 hit dice, but I want to make taking a respite feel like a very short experience. I'm thinking like 10 minutes, because the likes of an action movie character, they don't have huge blocks of time while they're trying to beat a ticking clock. And also, I love dungeons, I love tombs, the game is called Sanctum, and resting for a long time doesn't really fit that style, so how do you keep going, keep fighting, keep being a hero? Well, when you kill a worthy enemy, you get to roll your hero die, which starts at a d4. You gain a number of heroic hit points equal to the roll. And what's cool is that you can go over the number that it starts as, which means you can start the day with those 6 heroic hit points, kill a bandit, roll a d4, get 4 more hit points, now you have 10 heroic hit points to keep going and keep being heroic. If it's a fighting game, then the behaviour of fighting should reward you to keep fighting. If you manage to kill multiple enemies at once, like throwing a pyro bomb, then roll your hero die and you gain an additional amount of heroic hit points for every enemy you killed. Because it would suck to melt 4 enemies at once and gain 1 hit point after a bad hero die roll. But I don't want this to be just a fighting game, it's a role-playing game, so your GM can let you roll the hero die whenever you do some great role-playing, or when you solve a challenging puzzle, or when you do something that the GM wants to see more of to further the story and game. I love this design, it's simple and fun, and if you're thinking, I have to keep track of these hit points, in other games you have to keep track of a bunch of resources. In this game, you track your hit points, and these other hit points that are also your hit points. And that's another thing, resources, tracking resources, and I don't just mean like rations or how much stone you have to build up your houses and stuff in video games. You might be aware of slots, key, superiority dice, uses of rage, hit dice, and how many you get back from resting. And yes, I know some people really like to juggle all their resources, but I've seen my fair share of confusion about them, so in my aim to keep things simple, I'm trying to make it so there aren't as many resources to track. We're not here to be accountants, after all. And if your game has resources, that's fine. This game also has resources, just less of them and different ones. But it got me thinking, whatever you play, whatever character you play, what is the one resource that everyone tracks? Hit points, thus dying was born. Then I thought, hey, that guy, you know, the tank, who has the most hit points so they can protect the guys with not as many, what if they had only one resource to manage? Their hit points. So let me introduce you to the Berserker, as is its current name. The Berserker is the archetype for the super tough dude, who is super simple to play, but is injected with a bunch of wacky and fun abilities to make them shine. They've been called the Heavy and, more simply, the Tank, but one thing has never changed. In my aim to make a simple class, I wanted a class that was already looking at their hit points to use that in battle. And let me say this, not everyone is gonna agree. This is Dungeon Bits after all, where all the comments agree with me all the time, but does anyone find it odd how the tank in our usual games becomes the tank when they turn off what they learned in their anger management classes? In battle, in real life, the more you are hit, the more your effectiveness wanes. Look at the likes of Kingdom Come Deliverance, how when you're hit, you can't hit as well, because there's now a hole where your favourite anchor tattoo used to be. And in this system, you can use the dying state to replicate that feeling without every fight turning into a death spiral. But what if there was a class so tough that they become harder to kill the more you kill them? How many times have we seen the iconic trope of the angry warrior who loses all restraints when they get closer to death's door? The warrior drenched in their own blood, fighting with desperation and heightened, well, anger, and anger that is caused by their injuries. So, Berserkers get their Blood Frenzy ability at level 1, where at the sight of your own blood, you gain the following benefits. If you're below your maximum hit points, you're walking around with an injury and look more menacing. You can intimidate better as a result. If you're below half your maximum, you deal more damage. If you're below an amount equal to your level, you do even more damage and you're faster. And if you're dying, you don't suffer the usual negatives. I love this design because the only thing you need to keep track of is your number of hit points, which you are already doing. Also, you get this ability at level 1, and that ability said, if you're below your level worth of HP, you gain a benefit. Well, less than 1 is 0 and then you're dying. Yes, at level 1, you are at the squishiest you will ever be. So, when you drop to 0, aka below 1, you gain both benefits. Then as you level up, you gain things like Stubborn, where you can reduce the amount of damage you take by a d8 plus your level, in case you want to control how much HP you lose a bit more, since that's your whole thing. Then you can attack more. You gain bonuses like actually gaining advantage on attacks while dying as you slip into a state of pure ferocity. And then you can attack an additional time while dying. But on top of the talk of hit points and dying and how the Berserker is the class that plays with that design, I want to also highlight some specific pieces of design that I think you will find really fun. At the point in which the fighty guys get to attack more per turn, you also get that, and an ability called Ferocious Attacker, which I love because, let's be real, okay? We want a class that is incredibly bombastic, almost cartoonishly strong and rampaging, but the rules in our usual games don't give us that. Until now. Instead of making 2 attacks and dealing the most damage, you can instead choose one of these 3 attacks, the first of which being Frustrated Toss, which lets you throw an enemy some distance away from you and they fall prone. This ability also highlights a mechanic to do with involuntary movement like falling, called being pushed, which specifically means when you are moved into another entity or object, you cause damage to both things, depending on how far they were pushed. But because of this, your toss has 3 outcomes. The enemy is thrown and lands prone. The enemy hits another enemy and they both take damage and are knocked prone. Or it hits a surface and potentially breaks it as they are sent flying through it. Yes, because I want this game to be incredibly hyperactive and bombastic in combat, walls and cover can be broken down, and the Berserker can do stuff like throwing people out of windows or through weakened walls. GMs, how many times has a player asked you, can I throw my friend or an enemy? Only for them to be disappointed because you just can't do that in the rules. Well, no more. Play the Berserker and launch bandits through windows, walls, cover, and off cliffs. You could also use Hulking Charger, where you can run through enemies and knock them down. But there is a risk. While this does the most damage and knocks people down, if they aren't knocked prone, they can attack you. So will you relocate and decimate the most by losing more of your health, or just attack normally? Or Pouncing Leap, which I know people will love, because how many times have we wanted to be like the guys in fantasy art, where they're jumping midair, about to smack an enemy as they jump or fall, but when you do so, you have to roll to see if you fall on your ass as we take damage, and it's a whole mess. So, with this, you can jump way higher than normal, and if you don't fall higher than 30 feet, you take no damage. So you could jump off a 30-foot house or jump super high and hit a tall monster right in the face and be completely fine. I won't give away all the abilities, but you can also get stuff that basically turns you into a pack alpha as you defend your friends. If they're next to you, attacks made against them suffer a penalty. And with an ability called Rampager, if an enemy is even next to you, they take damage. No attack roll, they just take some damage from being close to you, because you're like the Tasmanian devil from Looney Tunes who's constantly spinning with an axe who never stops swinging. And with that, I hope that this has given you a bit of a glimpse into how I want to handle hit points, what happens when you lose them, how you can keep going and be heroic even when you lose them, and how I'm aiming to make classes simple and rule-breaking in their own special way. And that the Berserker is all of your cartoony, shirtless, muscle meat fantasies personified. Okay, maybe not all of them, you horny devil. I'm going to cover more of these design topics. I'm going to cover things like magic, because I recently had a galaxy brain moment about a new way I want to do that, and other core principles to the game and how your character options can play with these rules in really fun ways. I'm Ellis. Leave a like to help out the channel and check the description for my socials and products, and don't forget to subscribe to keep up with Sanctum. Also, until the game comes out, click the video on screen to see how you can make a new and fresh setting with the great games around you that is just waiting to inspire you. I love you all, and I'll see you next Saturday.